Alright, so for this video, I'll be explaining how I do my UV layout for my character, which is pretty much most of the major modeling has been done. So of course, if you've been modeling using the mirror method, okay, you have to join the two halves together. For this particular character, I've chosen to join the clothes, okay, the flight suit together first, then apply a single smooth mesh smooth to it. Now another alternative is that you can avoid doing the mesh smooth first. You can do the UV layout first, then you apply the smooth. You should be able to keep your UV layout properly. Now before I did this video, I already went ahead and already UV laid out this hair bit, so I'll just show you what I did. So all these hairs are made up of all these elements, and if you take a look at the UV layout, okay, they are just simple cylinders. So once I selected all the hair elements, right, I just cut a seam across it and do a UV layout just for the hair. Okay, now you can choose to have different materials being assigned to different parts of your character, or you can have everything done on a single UV space. Of course, if you choose the second option, which is to have UV for all the parts, then you will have less detail to cover up, or UV space, right, to cover up every single element. So however, if you choose to apply different sets of UV assignments for different parts of the body, then you can choose to have different materials. Okay, but since we are doing this for our substance painter, we are going to try to use just a single UV space. Right, so I'll start off by demonstrating how I UV lay out the face. Now this face has been combined together into a single mesh, and at level 1 this is what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to isolate just the head, and then I'm going to do the UV layout for this head. Now because this head, right, is not connected to the body, so it makes the cutting of the seam for this character a bit more straightforward. It does, however, have an ear, so I'll probably extract out the ear so that it will fold out nice and flat. So I'll think that I'll cut my seam from here all the way to here first. Now before I do the UV layout, of course, I need to assign it with a UV projection. So let's take a look at the UV. So there is no UV on this model yet, so I'll just make sure the model is selected, and with your UV texture editor selected, just go ahead and go to UV and do a planar projection. Now under your planar projection, make sure your keep image width height ratio is on, and insert projection before deformance is on, and make sure you're using the camera projection and project. Okay, so now that it has been assigned a UV, okay, now we just want to make sure that we cut a seam so that it can unfold nicely into a flat piece. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start off by selecting this, okay, this edge here, and then all the way to the back of the neck, holding down the shift and double click, so you'll cut right from here all the way to the bottom. Move your cursor to the editor and then press the Command Shift X to cut. So essentially right now I can open up and unfold this. Okay. Alright, so once you applied the seam, we just apply a seam in the center like this. We can go ahead and select the shell, and we can do a unfold, and it should unfold nicely into this shape. So you can see that now it has unfolded into this, but the problem with this shape right now is that the ears, right, has been crushed. So we need to extract the ears out and then unfold them separately. So what we can do over here is we can take a look at the 3D model. We can turn on the checker pattern. You can see that generally the checker pattern is distributed quite okay. Here I can turn the checker pattern off, but we want to extract the ears. So to get the ears, so go to edge mode. We need to select the ear loop around here, because it's just a simple extraction from here, and actually we can even see the entire border of the ear over here. So we can press Shift X to cut, then we can select the ear, and move the ear out of the way, and we can run a unfold for this. And we really can't unfold that much because there's an internal extrusion. So later we will take a look at this and do a proper unfold. Okay, for this loop, I'm just going to select this loop that runs around and then press Shift X to cut, and go to shell and select the shell and take it out. Okay, so now in order to unfold the ear a little bit more, we can select the edge that runs across here, and these three edges here, and which is actually the left ear on the other side. And then I'll just press Shift X, and then I will try to separate the shells. Let's see whether we can separate this. And then unfold this, Shift, unfold, unfold, and now it has unfolded properly. Then I'll try to unfold this again, press G to repeat last command, and you can see that the unfolding is looking a little bit better. Now I'm going to find the similar edge, select these two similar edge and Shift right mouse click, move and sew, and we'll do another unfold again. And apparently this part here is a bit extreme. Let me try to select this edge and then cut it again. Okay, and then I'll try to see whether I can connect it to another edge. Maybe these two will be better. Move and sew, then unfold again, and you can see now it's unfolding a little bit better. I think this will do for this shell, for the ear. So I'm going to move on to the other one, and maybe I'll just cut this edge. Okay, you can see there's another tight edge over here. Just cut and then see whether I can unfold this a little bit better. So select the UV shell, unfold, unfold, and it's looking a little bit better, but here there's a very extreme edge that's being collapsed. Okay, maybe this edge here, cut, and go and unfold again. Unfold the whole thing, and this one looks a little bit better, but somehow the shells are not looking unfolding that nice compared to this one over here. Okay, let me see where is the possible reason. Okay, there's a reason here. So maybe I want to select this and cut this one. So Shift X to cut, then select this edge, then move and sew, then now select the entire shell and fold again. Okay, so this is the best I can do for now. Then I'll leave this as it is. And for the face, now we can run another optimize on it. Okay, so optimize, you can see there's a bit of overlapping. This is not what I want, so I'm going to run the unfold again. Okay, you can press unfold several times until you can't unfold anymore. And then we can temporarily lay out these elements to use up the UV space for now. Okay, so that's essentially how you do the face. Now, of course, if you look at the eyes and it doesn't look like the shape that you want, you can always go to UVs, then select UVs, press B for the soft select, and then use the move tool. Okay, you can select both the sides here and then try to adjust this so that the eye shape, the area there is not so distorted. I can select these two sides here and then using scale to spread them out. Okay, and then we can turn on the checker pattern and then see what it looks like. So you can see you want to try to make sure that the pattern is evenly distributed. Okay, let me just turn off my soft selection here. Then you press number 3 to subdivide this. So you can see from where we cut the seam, you can see there is a very obvious seam around here. The checker pattern doesn't continue across because this is basically the border. And the area that stretches a lot is around the neck area here. But generally this part is still not much of a concern because you will not get to see this that much. And as for the ear itself, you can see that there's a very obvious seam because we cut the ear out. But for my character, her ears are generally covered by the hair, so it's not much of an issue. So we can consider this part done. Then we can move on to the rest of the character. Okay, let me turn off the checker pattern, and then I will isolate this. And perhaps let's take a look at the clothes itself. So you can see the clothes started off as a box. So that's the remaining UV of the previous UV of the cube. So I'm going to redo the UV. So I'm going to select her jumpsuit, then go to UV, and then do a planar projection. Remember the settings, following this one, and then I'm going to project. And I'm just going to treat this like as if I'm a tailor. Okay, I will look for a seam which I can cut and then separate the clothes into two. So I'm going to find an edge loop, right, that runs all across the side here. So I'm going to double click to select this loop, and I'm going to see whether does this work well as a seam line, and I think this one will do. So move your cursor over here, press Shift X, and then you can see the seam line being cut. Now I'm going to move to the other side and make sure I select the same edge loop as the opposite, and then press Shift X again. Then I'm going to select the top seam, and we just cut across like that. Shift X. Make sure you move your cursor over the editor before you do the cut. Okay, so this one is slightly behind, and Shift X. Alright, so now we need to cut another seam from underneath, okay, that cuts across a groin area until to the next seam. So there should be a continuous loop that runs across here, and which there is. Then I'll double click here, and you can see a loop that runs all across. Then press Shift X. Then essentially I believe now I separated into two halves, so let's try to see whether there are two shells. Seems like this is still one shell. Okay, that means the neck area there has not been completely separated yet. So we have to go and find a way to maybe separate the collar from the jumpsuit. So let's take a close look. And I think we should be able to see okay, we can see a seam over here that will be very good for cutting. I'm going to turn on to wireframe mode to help me see a little bit better. Okay, right now I'm still treating this as a single shell. I'm trying to look for a point, right, which I can cut and separate this. Okay, it's looking a bit odd for me because, okay, maybe I need to cut a loop from on top here. So I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'll cut a loop here. Shift X, and let's see whether this works. Yep, right now the collar, one part of the collar is separated, and we still can't separate the two halves yet. Maybe I will look closely here. Maybe I'll select this loop here and Shift X. Then I can now separate this collar. Okay, I might need to run the loop across like that. So another loop that cuts across here and here, and maybe the center portion here. Okay, maybe there are some vertices that are not linked yet. So, but right now I'll just try to cut. Yeah, okay. There's a star vertex here. That's why the loop didn't cut across. Okay, so hopefully now I should be able to separate this. Again, still everything is still joined together as a single shell, which is not what I want. That means I cannot separate this. So if this is the case, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a different way of breaking this into smaller shells. So what I can do is I can select this loop here. Usually there's a seam that runs across the shoulder here. Okay, and then now these should be separated into two separate shells like that. Okay, so I'm gonna cut. Okay, let me count how many loops are there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's go to edge mode. So I think it is right about here, I guess. Okay, so it should be this loop. Right, then press Shift X, move your cursor over the editor here, then go to UV shell and then move these two shells aside. So you can use this strategy to slowly break apart the shells itself. Okay, so right now is the top part here that looks a little bit suspicious. Okay, I'm going to try to use this seam here from here all the way to here, then press Shift X just to cut. So hopefully I can break it. Okay, good. Now I can finally break it into different shells. This part here, these are definitely broken into the back shells. Then I can try to join these loops together. I want to keep this together. Then stitch, move and sew together. Then I can unfold this. Right, these as well, I can unfold these. Okay, repeat last command to unfold, including the collar as well. So press G to repeat last command. Okay, so I think most likely there is a reversed, okay, I think I see it here now. I suspect there is a, okay, right now I can join this part back to the top part here. So that's like this edge, all the way to this edge. No, join these two first. Move and sew, then to this one, then move and sew, and then unfold again. Alright, this back part is fixed now. This part here is a bit tricky. Okay, I think it is because it's connected by this edge here, which I need to cut. So hopefully now it can separate the two, which it does. Good. Then now I can finally unfold this and unfold this. Okay, I definitely need to cut away these small bits of the collar. And join it back to the other collar pieces. Okay, let's see where does it connect. Let me just maximize this first and do some organization. Okay, let's do a quick layout first. And let's see where does this one connect to. Okay, these two, so I'll just move and sew. And this one seems to be joining the top here. And what about these pieces here? I want to see where the corresponding vertices that is supposed to be joining this. Okay, it's all joining the edge here. Okay, and then I'll move and sew this part as well. Okay, because it seems that these are meant to be okay, I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. Let's see, the front from here all the way to here, I'll do a move and sew. Then I'll select the UV shell and then I'll unfold. Okay, so now we have the front, we have the back, we have several elements of the collar. Okay, and it seems like the collar, yes, we see the continuous line here of the collar from here all the way to here. We can do a move and sew. So now select this UV shell and unfold again. Press G again to repeat last command. And let's see where else can we get these to stick? No, alright. Okay, now we can finally stitch this back again to the original location. Move and sew. So this one here as well. Right, this one is actually connecting to the edge, so we're not connecting this one. We want to connect this part here to the shoulder joint here. Alright, so now let me do a final unfold for everyone and then do a layout. Let's see what I can do. Optimize, okay, then layout. I have to go to shell mode first and then do a layout. Okay, and then so it will use up most of the UV space. I had to do some manual adjustments. Alright, so turn on the checker pattern and then look at the distribution on the character, and everything should look good. Everything is well distributed. Okay, there's a seam, but that corresponds well to the uniform. And yeah, that's essentially how you do UV for like a uniform like that. Then what about for the hand like this? So since this is like a glove, so it should be more straightforward. I'm going to go back to the editor and switch off the checker pattern. So again, this hand or glove was created from a cube. So I will just try to find the seam for the lower palm and the upper palm, and then I'll just separate it out. So first, let's give it a projection. Right, so select this hand and then do a UV planar project. Alright, so that we have the hand itself listed. So now you have to be very conscious of which part is the seam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the lower part of these faces to act as the shell. Okay, so you can actually select the faces to create the shell. I'll use the face method. You can use the paint method, holding down the tab key, right, and then just paint over the faces that you want to become a continuous shell like that. Alright, so you can see the bottom of the palm here now is selected. So this can act as a shell. So you can come over to the UV editor, shift right mouse click, say create shell, create UV shell. So now it becomes a UV shell, and you can do the unfold on it. And you can see now it unfolds out nicely like that. Okay, there is a seam that I need to cut here. And then I will unfold again. Press G to repeat last command, and then it should be done. Then what about the bottom part here? We can unfold this. Okay, and if you want to connect to the side, we can choose the side, one side here like this, from here to the base of the finger, then do a move and sew. Then we're going to do another unfold so that it doesn't cross each other. Okay, these edges should be moved and sewn together, and then we do a unfold one more time. Okay, actually these should be separated. And then let's do the unfold again. Shift right mouse click, then use the pie menu and choose unfold. And there you have it. The glove now is completely unfolded. If you turn on the checker pattern, you should see that the checker, right, is evenly distributed for the hand. Alright. Now if you do not want to repeat the same actions again, because this was a mirrored object, you can see that if I convert this into an actual mesh object by combining the two hands together, then it will also carry the checker or the UV layout over to the mirrored hand as well. Okay, because this is an instance. So to make the change permanent, you can select these two hands, then you can go to mesh combine, and now this other hand should actually is treated as one object, but we need to separate them into two different objects. Or actually another way would be to use mirror. You can also use mirror as well, but since we already combined these two as a single object, we have to separate this face. So go over to faces, double click to select all the elements, then use this detach as a separate, extract and detach as a separate object. So now this new hand, this object, right, has its own UV layout done as well. Right, like what I've mentioned, for all the meshes, it's best to, once you've done the UV layout, just go and apply a smooth. Okay, we'll do the same for this hand, mesh and smooth. Okay, so the rest is quite straightforward. You just basically continue with the UV layout until you get all the UV distribution, right, to be done properly. Now, I think I will stop the video here. The rest should be quite straightforward. Okay, so if you follow the same techniques, right, you should be able to get everything done in short order. And then once everything is done, we can select all the UVs and then do a layout. Okay, so far I only done the head, the hair, the hands, and then the jumpsuit. Okay, let's say we have finished. We have to select all the elements that has all the UVs done. For example, I'm gonna continue to select all of this like this. Then if you go over to the UV texture editor, okay, with all the objects selected, okay, we can go and do a UV layout. Okay, so you can see everything is overlapping each other. So go and select all the UV shells. Okay, and then do a layout. And you can see right now my hair elements, right, is taking up pretty much a lot of the space. So if you do not want the hair, right, to take up a lot of space, right, you can either try to stack them together. Okay, but most of the elements shape has been changed quite a bit. Or you can assign the hair with its own material and UV assignment or UV space. Okay, so the remaining items, let's say for the head, the jumpsuit, okay, let's say pretend everything has been done for the UV. Let's go back to the UV texture editor again. Okay, and let's see. Okay, so you can see all the elements, right, the shapes are in different sizes and all that. So we're going to select all of them. Okay, the hands are not selected. I need to include this hand as well. Let me go back to object mode again. Yeah, so now everything is selected. Now make sure you select all the elements, UV shells. Then do a layout. And now you can see everything is followed the scale. Okay, and you can see the Maya UV layout. We'll try to use as much of the UV space as possible. So you can see here I did not include the hair, and you will use up more of the texture space. So if you turn on the checker pattern, you can see that the checker patterns are now evenly distributed for all the parts of the body. Now there are other parts that I have not applied the UV yet. For example, the patches, the zipper. All right, now the zipper itself has a lot of repeated elements. Probably you want to do the stacking for the shells, and the turtleneck part, which is supposed to be a scarf, and then of course the boots. So once I've done all that, right, then the UV is pretty much done. And of course, my helmet, okay, which I have not done it yet. So this will still take a few moments, okay, but once it is done, then we can actually prepare the file for UV, or rather texturing, in another software like Substance Painter. Okay, with that, I'll end the recording.